Hey guys. So in today's video, I wanted to talk about something that is really getting a lot of attention in the nursing world lately, and that has to do with two nurses that have been involved in criminal proceedings in regards to patient care. And I wanted to also talk about an experience that I had where, thinking about what's going on with these two nurses, it got me thinking that, I could have actually been involved in something similar based on this experience that happened. So the first nurse is RaDonda Vaught. And if you don't know who she is, she's a nurse that is recently been in the news for her criminal trial, and she was found guilty. And I don't know that they've had the sentencing yet as of the date that I am filming this, but the situation was she was a nurse who made a serious, like deadly med error, and she gave actually the wrong medication. And instead of giving Versed, which is what was ordered, she gave Vecuronium, and the patient ended up brain dead and passed away. So she was just in the news just now, and I believe this other nurse also was just in the news recently as well. The other one is Christanne Gainey, and she is an agency nurse who was working, I believe it was a long-term care facility or like a rehab facility, and this patient had been there for a few days and had fallen multiple times within the few days that he had been there. And she was supposed to be doing neuro checks, but she was like, based on the articles that I have read in her instance, she seemed to be like the nurse there, like she was the only one. From my own personal experience, these nurses that work, whether it's rehab or long-term care or assisted living, they have a lot to do, especially if they are the only nurse. I am not sure of, the exact details of this case for Christanne Gainey. And if I am wrong in anything that I have said, please correct me. But I wanted to talk about my own experiences with, incidences that happen in the nursing home. So I was actually at one point investigated for abuse on my CNA certification. And after this investigation, I was proven to be not at fault. But just thinking about like how these nurses are being criminally prosecuted, that's the word, it kind of scares me about like where we're going with all this, because I think that, America is very litigious society as far as criminal litigations and stuff like that. Very sue happy. Not saying that they don't, like in certain situations, not saying that it's not warranted, but to give you guys the story of my own personal situation, first of all, I just want to say that I never would ever abuse a resident or a patient. The reason that this investigation started is because I quit working at the nursing home, the very first nursing home that I ever worked at. I quit working there to go work at the hospital on the orthopedics unit. And like 3 or 4 months before I quit to go work at the hospital, there was a memory care patient of mine who ended up falling. And she ended up having to go to the hospital because she fell. And when she fell, she hit her head on the floor and it was bleeding. And so the situation was, I was working night shift on memory care. That was not my normal shift, but I had been picking up a lot of hours for memory care because they just couldn't keep people on the locked memory care unit, which is where I worked. A lot of people didn't want to work in the locked setting where it's locked down, like you have to have a code to get out and to get in, and you're stuck there. You can't just wander to different units within the building. You are stuck in the lockdown unit. So I was working night shift, and on night shift, there were 2 of us to the 30 some patients. I can't remember the exact number now, but there were 2 CNAs to this whole unit. And on night shift, there was 1 nurse for the entire building, and the entire building was like 3 stories high. There was a rehab, there were 3 or 4 long-term care wings, and there were 2 memory care wings to 1 nurse. And I think they had like 1 or 2 QMAs that would help for memory care, and 1 or 2 of the long-term care units, depending on how much assistance the nurse needed. Just to give you an idea of like how many staff were in the building on any given shift. So I was getting this one resident dressed, and like I said, she ended up falling. But what happened was I was getting her dressed, and she tended to be very particular about what clothes she wanted to wear. So I had already picked out clothes with her before she went to bed. But when I was getting her dressed in the morning, she did not want to put that shirt on. So I turned, like literally her bed was here, her closet was here. I turned from where I was with her at the bed to take these few steps to get to her closet door to open it, and she was on the floor. Like she was sitting on the bed. I still to this day don't know how she ended up on the floor. You know, like things like this happen in a heartbeat. And like I said, I don't know the exact situation. I don't know the exact details of what happened with RaDonda Vaught or Kristan Gainey, but you know, it is very, very simple for something to happen just like that. Like I said, I literally turned and she was on the floor. And I sat with her. I felt so bad that she fell. Like every single time I've had a patient fall or a resident fall, I feel so horrible. Like I feel awful. Even if like they just slid down, I feel awful. I usually sit there and I stay with them until the nurse doesn't need somebody sitting there anymore. You know, I make sure that they are very well taken care of. I make sure that they have everything that they need. And if the nurse needs somebody to sit there, I will have another CNA like make sure that my other residents are okay, and I will sit there with my resident. In this case, she did come back. She was okay. She had bruising like right here. And it was weird the way that she fell, because I don't know if she hit the dresser or like the side table or what she hit this part of her head on, but she had like a bruise right here. And it was just, it was awful. And so after I quit and moved to the hospital, like the nursing home that I was working for, I wrote up an incident report, and they told me, you know, how it was not my fault. And I did do the little training that they have you do about like safety, and little in-service that they have you do when somebody falls. And I did talk to the unit manager, and even she said, you know, it was not anything that I could have prevented at that point, other than like having her entire closet sitting on the bed. You know, I don't know what I could have done differently, but I was investigated and then cleared of all like wrongdoing, I guess, cleared of all responsibility for it. But you know, it makes me scared to think about like what's going to happen when I'm the doctor. You know, if something happens to a patient of mine when I'm the doctor, what's going to happen? Like, because you know, you have a lot more that could potentially go wrong when you are treating patients, like prescribing medications. What if they have a medication interaction and they die? Like, it just makes me a little bit scared and hesitant and intimidated, if that makes sense. So let me know if you guys have followed like RaDonda Vaught's story or Kristan Gainey's story, what your thoughts are on the whole thing. If you've ever had an incident at work as a CNA or a nurse, if you feel comfortable sharing, you know, what the outcome of that was, or like, did you change how you handled certain things after that? Like, in my case, I have always been very careful with residents. I'm always trying to do whatever I can to prevent injury, even if it's just like moving somebody up in the bed. I try to make it so that their skin doesn't slide with friction and all that stuff. Like, I'm very, very cautious about the care that I provide. So let me know what your thoughts are. If you'd like me to talk about any topics, in a future video, please let me know. If you have any questions, suggestions, comments, etc., etc., please let me know that as well. And with that being said, I will talk to you guys next time.